Just one more example, a biblical one. If you think about in the book of Acts, there's a revival in Samaria. If you remember, Philip, one of the first deacons, leaves Jerusalem and goes to Samaria, the traditional enemies of Israel, and he preaches the gospel. And it seems like there's hundreds and hundreds getting saved. Many people are coming to Christ. If you take that moment just in isolation, it seems like this immediate work and this is easy, this is no problem, and this is how it should work for us. But if you telescope back a bit, there's actually a ton that goes into that. And it goes back to John chapter 4, when Jesus chooses to go through Samaria, and he meets the woman at the well, and she starts spreading the gospel. So you have that moment, which is quite some time before the seeds are planted. But then Jesus leaves. He leaves Samaria. And you have, from that time, the most of the history of the Gospels. So you have the apostles running away from Jesus after the Last Supper. You have Peter rebuking Jesus. You have the cross happening, where everyone abandons Jesus and he is nailed to the cross. And then on the third day, rising again. You have the disciples being restored afterwards. The point is that there's a ton that goes into it. It's not just Philip showing up and preaching the gospel and bam, it's all done. There's disappointment and failure and pain and waiting and lots of prayer before the revival happens. You also have people who are never going to be involved in the revival playing a part. All of the apostles are there in Samaria in John chapter 4 and playing a part. And only a few of them get to see the fruit. So the question is, do we trust Jesus? Do we trust in his work being done, whether we get to see it or not? Do we trust that there's going to be a harvest? We just get to play a part, and we'll be rewarded for our faithfulness, for our small or big part, whether we get to see it or not. Do we trust the power of the gospel to change this entire world, using one guy who's faithful and pushes through his own emotions to preach the gospel and bring it to a world that is going to need it very quickly? This entire world is getting shaken up and moved around right now. Physically, with illness. Spiritually, with lots of false teachers and lots of people questioning. Economically, with businesses struggling and people questioning whether they're going to have a paycheck tomorrow. The question for you and for me is whether we are willing to lay the foundation like Jeremiah Lanphier did and be faithful in that time of waiting before God's multiple threads all come together. It's like him doing a tapestry, and we can only see a few of the threads being woven right now. At some point they're all going to come together and we're going to realize he's been making this beautiful picture, revival, glory of God. Are we willing to do one of the threads, even if we never see the entire picture? Just because we know that Jesus tells us to, that it is good, and that it will be fulfilling and glorious for us, even if we never see the end result. I get it. I totally get it. I've experienced great disappointment at times in my work in ministry. I was a businessman called into ministry in my 40s, and there have been times where I feel like I'm the only one showing up for a prayer meeting. I feel like I try something and it doesn't work. I feel the crushing disappointment when I put so much into something and the person doesn't get saved. The person doesn't come to church. The person doesn't listen to what I'm saying. But Jesus also gets it. Jesus also understands. Jesus knows exactly that experience because he did the same thing. He preached and people didn't listen. He healed and people did not follow. He loved and people rejected him. If that is where you are, rejoice. You're being counted worthy to be like Jesus. And he will not overlook it. He will reward you now or in eternity. God bless you.